give you my fate, and your fate will become mine.
Caleb isn't just a Gemini. He might be the most structurally accurate zodiac portrayal in Love and Deepspace, built around the mythology of the twins, his weapon and lover, mortal and immortal, shadow and light. Gemini gets a bad rap. Chatterbox, flirt, wildcard, jack of all trades, master of none. But the truth? Gemini is a mutable air sign ruled by Mercury, a messenger, a trickster, and the master of strategy. It's the thought that darts away before anyone notices, unless you know how to catch it. And that's exactly what Caleb does. I'm Princess Farron, and this is Chapter 5 of Love and Deepspace, the Zodiac of Love. Let's travel through the Deep Space Tunnel and discover what the stars reveal about Gaga Caleb. Ready? Let's go! Wherever and whoever Caleb is with, it's always clear that he feels at ease and people are drawn to him, whether it's his DAA colleagues or the MC's friends.
Ice cold, too. And there's going to be a barbecue at the campsite later.
Thanks, guys.
Don't mention it. Hey, tell us more stories about your time as a pilot.
Living in the moment, Geminis can be very entertaining to be around. They make friends wherever they go and have the ability to talk to almost anyone about anything. They know the art of conversation and are naturally charismatic. However, they usually prefer not to delve into deep subjects and remain somewhat detached.
Is it just because I said I'd always be by your side? I'm just messing around. What's wrong? Cat got your tongue?
Despite all the secrecy he holds, Caleb rarely loses his happy-go-lucky demeanor, a levity that makes other people feel comfortable around him. And that's no surprise, because the Gemini archetype teaches us how to lighten up, let go, and not take things so seriously. It encourages us to remain curious about ourselves and the world around us. But Caleb isn't only good vibes and lighthearted energy. He exists as a contradiction, a being created or fine-tuned for violence, who chooses love, a weapon that develops empathy, a man of selected silence who thinks 10 moves ahead. Caleb's existence is built on duality, which is Gemini's core trait. Like the twins that represent the sign of Gemini, he balances two sides, the intellect and the charm, the weapon and the man.
You passed. Surprised? Sure, it's been a while, but you already forgot about me?
Gemini mutable air energy thrives in contradiction, effortlessly holding opposing truths without choosing. And Caleb? He lives it every day, showing one side to the MC, another to his colleagues, another to Professor Lucius and Ever, and yet another to Viper. Geminis are always childlike in their core, but when necessary, they can be serious, competent, and committed. Caleb doesn't speak much, but when he does, it's intentional, which is pretty much the inverse of the classic chatty Gemini trope. Constantly assessing the situation, staying quiet until he's certain what to say or do, what to reveal and what to conceal, showing his air sign intellect at work like no one else. Have you ever noticed how Caleb seems to pretty much always know what to say? Gemini is associated with the third house, the house of communication, conscious thought patterns, siblings, courage, early education, language. This house represents bravery, determination, and risk-taking. Obviously enough, we all know that Caleb has a mechanical arm, right? And guess what? The third house rules body parts like the arms, collarbones, hands, and neck. The third house is also the placement where ideas become action and fear is transformed into effort. It is also related to technology, data processing, transport, and short distance travel. Coincidence or not, the fact is that Caleb's childhood with the MC reflects almost all of these themes. They were raised together as adoptive siblings after Josephine brought them home from the Gaia Research Center. Therefore, their only family was a former researcher in a highly technological facility. Caleb went to study in Skyhaven, bringing the short travel into play, only to later become a colonel of the Far Space Fleet, again reinforcing the themes of transport. The third house also touches on private rituals, eating, birthing, mourning. And Caleb, as well as Grandma, was in fact the first person that the MC had to mourn, and that marked her very deeply. This definitely adds an extra layer of meaning to their childhood and teenage years. The fact that they share a sibling-like bond in the story really matters. The ruler of Gemini, Mercury or Hermes, is the swiftest of the gods, a messenger, a trickster, and a guide between worlds. Just like Caleb, who navigates life as both weapon and man, he was also responsible for commerce, thieves, and communication. But beyond that, he was also the guide of souls to the underworld, a psychopath. Mercury is adept at communicating with lightning speed. The price of speed, however, is a lack of depth. Let's take a closer look at its symbology, shall we? Mercury's glyph is both solar and lunar over the cross of matter. The combination of all three symbols signifies the potential integration of spirit, soul, and matter. Like Mercury, Gemini likes to run over the surface of things without ever penetrating their depth. This can manifest as the joy of intellectual play. And that's why Mercury gives Caleb his brightness, high-speed thinking.
Can this work as a screwdriver?
In a pinch, yes.
Is there anything you can't do? You're amazing.
Do you know how to fix grills, Caleb? Ours won't light.
They're electric, right? I know a thing or two about those. I'll take a look.
His habit of making strategic decisions before others see the full picture, like not reappearing to the MC immediately after recovering from the explosion. And even his clarity when navigating through the unknown regions of the deep space tunnel. His mental control over emotion makes every moment of vulnerability hit harder.
Then can you carry a little of this in too? Don't leave me in this loneliness any longer.
Taking all this into account, it's no surprise Geminis thrive in professions where minds move fast. Journalism, public relations, social media management, teaching or training, comedy, acting, and politics. Remember how Caleb used to be a councilman in Tomorrow's Catch-22? And Caleb's rise to colonel? Pure Mercury in action. Caleb embodies this archetype, always watching, always processing, always 10 steps ahead. Gemini and Mercury symbolize the experience of communing with the eternal presence through thoughts and words shared with people. It's the sign of the scribe and the writer, aspiring to think, perceive, and learn from experience, from matter. Being ruled by Mercury, the planet that is associated with our thinking minds, the average Gemini spends a lot of time in their heads. This is particularly true in regard to Caleb, especially when we remember that he created a black hole in his own mind to keep all the memories he has of the MC safe. While they were apart, his mind was the only way he had of feeling closer to her. It's no wonder Geminis constantly tune into the various voices inside of themselves, and they're often aware of the evil twin within, just like Caleb is. In a healthy state of mind, Gemini are able to notice the various thoughts that pass through their heads, look at them with curiosity, and then let them go. As we've mentioned before, Caleb and the MC being siblings, even if adoptive ones, is relevant. It goes beyond being a simple trope of forbidden love. Curious? Let's explore it more. The Gemini symbol is the twins, and the mythology associated with its constellation explains why. In Mesopotamian or Babylonian mythology, the constellation of Gemini was depicted as a pair of armed twins, one carrying a weapon on his left and the other one on his right, accentuating the mirroring quality of Gemini and their duality. Besides, these twins were supposed to guard the two entrances to the underworld. Even its glyph is somewhat akin to pillars, to doorways to different worlds, which ties up with the version of the twins as the guardians of the underworld. Some sources also say that the Gemini constellation celebrated the relationship between Gilgamesh and Enkidu, who fought the gods in their quest for immortality, the ever-present theme of Love and Deepspace. Gemini's duality ends up symbolizing a connection to the heavens, immortality, and to Earth, mortality. They could even be seen as the messenger between the realms of death and life. In Egyptian mythology, the constellation took the name of the two stars, or the united, Pimahi, as a representation of duality, a combination of soul and matter. In some Egyptian zodiac interpretations, the stars are identified as the twin gods Shu, representing air, and his sister wife Tefnut, representing moisture, both children of Ra. Given Caleb's and MC's backgrounds, this one is very interesting. Another interpretation associated the constellation with the reconciliation of warring twins, although they were actually uncle and nephew. And here I mean Seth, responsible for chaos, storms, desert, and Horus, the god of the sky, order, and civilization. They represented the balance of conflict. The Greeks also have a myth associated with Gemini. We're talking about Castor and Pollux, the twins of Gemini, who were also warriors. One mortal, one immortal. When Castor died, because he was mortal, Pollux begged Zeus to allow him to share his immortality with his brother, leading to a decree that they would spend their time together, alternating between the two realms of heaven, Mount Olympus, and the underworld, Hades. Like the Gemini twins, Caleb feels like two selves in one body, the created weapon and the man who chose to live and love. Once again, we have a clear nudge to the duality of Gemini. One twin belongs to heaven, the other to earth, light and shadow, yin and yang, conscious and unconscious. Duality in motion, reminding us that we can fluctuate between opposing energies. Caleb embodies that same adaptability, a true Gemini sun always moving across opposing energies. And let's not forget Caleb's Decoherence myth. In it, MC was the vessel for destructio energy, and Caleb was the vessel for construo energy. They were created to connect to each other so that if the MC was hurt, Caleb would be able to connect to her and help her heal. Caleb was like the other half of the MC, her twin reversed image. His creative and restorative essence being the opposite mirror to the MC's destructive force. Gemini is symbolized by the twins, two bodies in relationship. And what about Caleb's evil? Gravity governs binary stars and orbital systems, that is, objects locked in motion around each other. The same pull energy that is the essence of Caleb and MC's connection. And maybe that's why the fact that they are actually adoptive siblings is important. because it adds another important layer of meaning to the essence of their relationship as two beings in quantum entanglement. Communication, curiosity, connection, transformation through information. Geminis use words as weapons, or in Caleb's case, choose when not to use them. In a sort of Gemini twist, Caleb doesn't over communicate. Rather, he withholds, waits, and watches. Every word he does say feels like it's carrying double meaning, just like the duality behind the way he acts. That duality is also explained by Gemini's Jungian archetype, the trickster or jester, the mischievous and unpredictable figure often challenging societal norms and conventions. Gemini represents the mind's ability to perceive duality, make connections, and communicate between different realms. This is Mercury as a psychopomp, the guide between worlds. Gemini's playful and unpredictable energy embodies the trickster's inclination to challenge social norms, disrupt routines, and encourage new perspectives, playing with the laws of the universe like Caleb does. He defied death, ever, the far space fleet politics, and even fate, because he'll do whatever it takes to keep the MC safe. All the while, Caleb keeps acting like a double agent, hoping to fool all sides so that he can achieve his desired outcome, just like a true Gemini that reflects the duality of the trickster, constantly switching perspectives. He is an embodiment of the archetype of the jester, the one who can take any turn of fate with a laugh and make sure we remember to enjoy ourselves.
If the rescue team arrived 2 days later, I would have finished training my Seagull squad. They'd be able to deliver notes for me.
Without the jester, life would often be too much to bear. And then there's the shadow side. Geminis are like a pool of water, still on the surface, but below, the water is churning with turbulent waves. Geminis will always be fighting a battle between their rational and irrational sides. At their best, Gemini individuals are funny, curious, friendly, and are able to hold multiple points of view on any given subject. They are loyal friends and companions who always retain a close relationship with their inner child. I'm sure you notice how Caleb seems to have a knack for pretty much everything, whether it's making paper planes, reconstructing an old house, or fixing a barbecue. Since they are lifelong learners, Geminis can often be found picking up the basics on many different topics at a time. They are quick-witted and clever and know when to throw a joke into the mix to lighten the mood. They are equally as wonderful at parties and social gatherings as they are as students or as teachers. However, as we talked about, Geminis are represented by the symbol of the twins. When their evil twin comes out, it can be a whole other ballgame. In its shadow, Gemini can be emotionally disconnected, selfish, full of nervous energy, an eternal child, shallow, coldly calculating, controlled by the many critical voices that live in their heads, and unable to stay focused on the things that truly matter to them. In their shadow state, Geminis get cut off from their hearts. Only focus on what's in their heads. They can get bogged down by the details, easily making mountains out of molehills. Without an inner compass to guide them, they will make decisions surgically, treating emotions as problems to be solved, rather than as information to better understand themselves. In Love and Deepspace, we see this happening with Caleb in two different ways. First of all, we have the Turing chip, an artificial device that aims to suppress Caleb's emotions, aiming to turn him into something akin to a machine. On the other hand, we see a certain natural detachment that Caleb maintains in regards to most people, MC being the exception, of course. These behaviors can deeply affect their quality of life and relationships. In their shadow state, Gemini can see feelings as a threat to be neutralized. That's why this archetype can become superficial, cold, or a master of manipulation and misinformation. When Gemini misfires, they scatter, gossip, or stay superficial, losing depth in thought and connection. Caleb's Turing chip exaggerates this, turning brilliance into artificial detachment. Let's remember what happens when Caleb's adjutant Liam meets his own kids in the world underneath Chapter 15, Sketches, Volume 13. He acts and sounds like he's running on an artificial script. Yes, it's explained by the Turing chip, but it also symbolizes something deeper. When Gemini energy is misdirected, they become cold and robotic, lost in trivia. The shadow of Gemini emerges, making them nervous, confused, irresponsible, and childish, unable to see the forest for the trees. When in their dark place, they cease to be able to connect with others the way they usually do. They can become quite selfish, using other people as information gathering resources instead of forming actual human connections. In order to heal, Geminis can try to integrate their mind's dualistic nature and use communication as a means to bridge rather than divide. Caleb and the MC. Two minds, one connection. All Caleb yearns for is her trust, and to soar through life with her at his side. Like Caleb, Gemini seek relationships based on trust, understanding, and excitement. In romantic relationships, Geminis can be very charming and fun-loving partners. For them, true love involves a meeting of the minds. Maybe that's why when MC and Caleb are together, they seem like two silly beans sharing the same brain cell. When a Gemini falls in love, they make an effort to put a smile on their person's face, to make them truly happy.
You ungrateful pipsqueak.
And they love it when someone matches their sense of humor. They can easily run hot and cold with their affection, like air signs usually do. MC doesn't easily give in to Caleb, and she frequently banters with him, and that's why Caleb cannot resist her. Why? Because the way to a Gemini's heart is through their mind. They need intellectual stimulation.
It's only got half its health left. You want to do a competition?
Of course. Watch me.
They're curious, social, and always seeking new experiences. The red flag shows up when this restlessness turns into unpredictability for their partner, or when they use their conversational abilities to manipulate and to get what they want, using words as a weapon. Geminis want to be accepted. They want to be understood. They're looking for someone who can appreciate their duality and understand their complex actions. Geminis also love people who follow their instincts. Remember when the MC impulsively implanted herself with a chip? She wanted to understand Caleb, to feel what he was going through. And that's why she acted on instinct. Another interesting trait is that when a Gemini falls in love, they will be vocal about their feelings. Words of affirmation is their love language, so they will want to frequently talk about how much they adore their person. They may also be keen on introducing them to every single one of their friends. Remember how Caleb's friends all knew about the MC before they actually met her? That's why.
Hi. The last time I saw you was when Caleb just joined us. Patrick, have you met her before?
No, but I know her well enough. Caleb's talking about her all the time.
And if you love a Gemini and want a little tip, you can surprise them at an unexpected moment with a gift or a lunch or dinner date. Together, Caleb and the MC represent two halves of the same being. In a way, they can basically embody Gemini's essence. The twins' archetype and mythology became really clear when the both of them switched roles in the Decoherence myth. That switch is a synonym for Gemini's structural duality. Even Caleb's gravity manipulation evol could serve as a metaphor for invisible ties with people, just like what he has with the MC. It's that subtle pull, the orbiting dynamics, and the relational magnetism that is always present in his relationship with her. Caleb is pure Gemini. Charming, cunning, unpredictable, and I dare say he even controls the orbit. But let me know what you think. Do you see Caleb as a perfect example of a Gemini sun? Or do you believe he's got more influence of fiery signs, for example? This was episode 5 of Love and Deepspace, the Zodiac of Love, a series in which we explored how each love interest of Love and Deepspace is extremely well coded as their sun sign, because they are. If you're curious about the other 4 men, you can check out this playlist right here. And if you have suggestions for a future series you'd like to see, let me know. Leave a like if you enjoyed this one, and subscribe if you want to see more breakdowns and lore related fun. Until next time, this is Princess Farron signing out. Take care and good gaming. Bye!